Okay guys, welcome back. Here we are in my version of Photoshop. I have CS5, so it's going to look a little different than what you see at school. Still the same. If you happen to have elements, I believe 9, 10, and beyond, it does have masking capability, so you can do this in elements if you want. Real quick, because I only have about 10 minutes for the video to be able to show you what to do. You want to grab your day and your nighttime photos. The object is, now obviously you're going to notice I used the same photo and I made it look like it was nighttime also to illustrate my point. But you want to make sure that when you take these photos that you have the scene lined up as best to perfect as possible, because if you have any kind of lines, if you take the photo and you don't take the exact same scene, things aren't going to line up, and when you start to try and mask things, you're going to notice, you're going to be able to see where the photos didn't line up, and then you'll get all frustrated. So if you can figure out a way to keep your camera set up so that all you have to do is push the button again, that would be fine. Or take notes, make markings, take notes on your focal length and things like that so that you can retake that photo. And make sure you go into your camera and flip-flop between the two to make sure that your lines are as lined up as possible. So we have daytime and we have nighttime in the same scene. So the first thing we need to do is we need to bring these together. So I'm going to grab one of them. I'm going to grab my daytime. I've grabbed my move tool. I'm going to hold down the shift key, and when I grab it and move it on top of my nighttime, when I let go, because I held down my shift key, this should have lined up perfectly. And as you notice, it does. That's one way to bring two photos and have them stack right on top of each other perfectly instead of trying to move it and then move it around to where it's in the frame correctly. Just hold down your shift key when you're moving it, and it will snap it right to where it needs to be, to the perfect location. So here we have two layers. We have the daytime, we have nighttime. So the idea is we want to come in somehow and figure out what elements of the daytime we want to save and what elements of the nighttime we want to show through. In the day class, we did talk about a bunch of different options. Some of them were very creative. For those of you at night, if you want me to kind of go through the more creative ideas, I totally can do that in class when we're there in editing. I can show you a couple things, but like I said, I just want to get the basic of masking right now, and if I have time I'll show them the creative stuff. The idea here is to create a mask. It's this icon right down here in your layers palette. It's what I call the circle square icon. It's typically, no matter which, if you're using Photoshop or you're using Elements, it will look like a circle inside a square. If I hover over it, it says add a layer mask. What a layer mask does is, if you look at, pay attention to my layers up here, when I push that, it adds this extra layer in between. This page is actually kind of in between these two, but it's sitting up on top of this one. But it's actually a magical make-believe layer that's going to sit between two of them, and what it does is it allows me to erase certain things so that other things show through. But unlike using the eraser tool, where if I were to erase and erase, I can't go back if I accidentally color outside the lines. I'd have to kind of redo it all over again. Whereas a layer mask works on the concept of painting with black and white. Black takes away because it's the absence of color, and white puts it back because that's the presence of color. So I have my layer mask here. I'm going to come over, and as soon as I click a layer mask, I'm going to get rid of the mask real quick just to show you what happens. I'm going to delete that layer. Here, if you notice over here, my paint chips. Here, let's get one that doesn't match there so it shows up. Here with my paintbrush, if I have my paintbrush selected, I have red and blue paint chips is what I call them. I know that's what Photoshop calls them. It's what I call them. So if I were to come in here and start painting, I would be painting with red, or I would be painting with blue, which is not what I want to do. I want to do a layer mask. So I'm going to click on the layer. Gives me my layer mask, and if you notice, it automatically changes my colors to black and white. Those are the two things I need to use to color with. I also want to come up here and bring up my opacity a little bit on my paintbrush. Now remember, I've showed you guys quick keys before. If you use the X key, it flip-flops your colors, brings your black to the forefront or brings your white to the forefront. That way you can stay on what you're working on, and you don't have to keep coming off of what you're doing to come over and hit the little arrow to flip them. Just put your finger on the X key and go to work. Whoops, I accidentally lost my stuff. You do want to make sure that your layer mask is the one that's selected. If I come over here and click on the photo, you'll notice the frame goes around the photo. So now the layer mask is not selected. If I come in here and try to draw it, number one, I go back to my red and blue paint. And number two, I come back and I'll wind up painting, which is not what I want to do. So you want to make sure that you click on that layer mask, and that's what's selected. And so I have my daytime on top of my nighttime. So I'm going to hide my night just so I can illustrate how this works. I have black. Black takes away. So I want to make the sky and the mountains my nighttime. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to come in, and you'll notice because I made the layer below it hide, and I'm going to do this very quickly, so my mask is not going to be that great. But I'm going to come in, and I want this part to be my nighttime, which is the underneath photo. So I'm going to come in here very loosely and very messily. I'm going to come in, and I'm going to erase the part that I want to show from the bottom. Now I can do a bigger brush. Remember, you can change your brush by using your bracket keys. That way you can see how big your brush is. And if you notice, if you look over at my layer, my masking layer, you'll notice that where I'm painting, which is what I'm actually doing, I'm actually painting black on it. It shows black. Come back in here and go back to, white. Get my brush back. I accidentally undid some of my trees. I want to put some of those back because I had a big fluffy brush that went over where I was trying to paint. Bring back my house and my land. Come here, erase. So now I'm painting with my black. You can see that in my layers mask over there. And then when I come back in and I show my nighttime photo, see if I hide here. Here we have the nighttime photo, which is underneath. I've erased part of the top photo. So if I stack them, now you will see very badly it has been masked so that the nighttime photo shows through with the daytime photo. And now I get kind of a day and night appearance. Now again, remember, like I said, with your paintbrush tool, if you notice, I can come back in and I notice that I've got around my trees is really messy. Whoops. What am I doing here? Oh, I want to come in and fix that. Now that I've got my things stacked, I can come back in and see where maybe I missed some spots. And I can come in and fix them. That almost looks like a nebulous cloud, doesn't it? Come in and fix. Fix. I've also said that when you're doing a mask, sometimes if you want to mask off a certain thing, find a selection, some way to select. I've got the quick select. So I come over here and select like this house. And when you select something, once it's selected, if I come back into my layer mask over here and I start painting with my paintbrush again, anything that I've selected is going to be affected, but I'm only going to only affect what's in the selection. So I can sit here and paint all kinds of messy, but it's only going to affect what I've selected. So this is where you can get kind of creative in some of the things that you do by coming in and making selections. So I can come in and maybe even select that part of the mountain, come back to my paintbrush, and go put the daytime part of the mountain back in. And I can get as messy as I want because I have given myself boundaries with my selection. So when I deselect, you can see where I've gotten my selection. It only affected my selection. So if we look here, you can see where I've put back and I've taken away to get like a night and day appearance. So for the weekend, if you guys want, go ahead and play with this. If you don't get the effect you wanted, then like I said, this is all due next week in class. So you can totally come into class and I will help you out if something didn't work. Okay? So I'll see you guys next week and have fun.